every coach, every person has an opinion on how every realtor should operate. And our message from the very beginning has been, do it how you want to do it. Like, what is working for you? Maybe you like to door knock or cold call, or maybe you like to do open houses, but the next person doesn't. We can't all do it exactly the same and be successful.
Hey friends, I'm Rosemary Lewis, your homegirl, and I'm so excited that you are here. I do not care what it looks like on Instagram or HGTV. This whole being a realtor thing is not for the faint at heart. In 2017, I quit my job as a teacher to follow my real estate dreams and quickly found myself overwhelmed and struggling. Fast forward to today, not only have I been recognized as one of the leaders in our industry, I have actually grown a business that I absolutely love. I don't care if you're a brand new agent trying to figure out how to get started or a veteran feeling overwhelmed and just stuck. I was just like you, and I totally get it. Many times I wish there was someone that I could just talk to about all the challenges I was facing. And that is why I created this space just for you. Like best friends do, I'm giving you all the tea related to navigating and thriving in these real estate streets. If I can do it, guess what? That's proof that you can too. Everything's better with friends, so let's succeed together. Welcome to the Real Estate Bestie Podcast. Well, hello there, besties. I know. I say every single episode that I am excited because you are here, right? But let me tell you, today we have two very, very special guests that I cannot wait to. I bet I'm going to just be reintroducing them to some of you, but introducing you to the first time to the amazing ladies of the Hustle Humbly Podcast, Katy and Alissa. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
We are very excited.
I am so excited to have you. And besties, right before we started, I hit the record button. I was just sharing with Katy and Alissa that, real estate podcasts, they don't always leave you feeling warm and fuzzy inside. And we know that that's not our business, but sometimes they can just, I've listened to podcasts, especially starting out, and I actually was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I felt more defeated than supported. And that's one of the reasons why I started Real Estate Bestie. And then I came across Hustle Humbly, and I was like, yes, you all are speaking my language, just that whole idea of collaboration over competition. So do you want to tell us how you got started? Let's back up. How did you get started in business?
After college, I went into retail management. That is a thankless job. It is not something I saw myself doing forever. And another manager at my store got their real estate license for part-time. So I was like, that sounds interesting. So I got my real estate license in 2005 and I immediately went full-time. So I ditched my retail management job and I went straight into real estate. So I've been doing this 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and dog years, like it feels like dog years, right? Like you're.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I started in 2011 and I had just gotten my MBA and thought I was going to go into corporate America. And my mom is, always worked in a corporate job and worked her way to the top and been recruited. And she was just always a big inspiration. So I got my MBA thinking I've always liked to work. So I'll just find a company and work there and work my way to the top. Well, I realized that having my MBA did not automatically make the world my oyster. So I was like, okay, well, I thought this MBA was going to mean a little bit more. And in the meantime, my dad is a real estate appraiser. And I was going to get my appraiser's license to help him with work, realized getting your appraiser's license took a few years. So I just got my real estate license without necessarily knowing that it was going to be my career. And then when I got my license, I had to place it with a broker, which is the broker I'm still with today. And that broker is the one who was like, look, I know that you're kind of just doing this to help your dad on the appraisal side, but I really think you would be good at this. There's not a lot of young people. I was 22 at the time. And she was like, you have a great sphere. Your friends are graduating college or getting married. Like you could probably make a really good living out of this. And so I gave it a shot, and my first year went better than I would have expected. And so I said, well, I'm just going to give it another year. And each year it just got better and better. So it sort of chose me. It almost scares me to think that I almost missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one thing that I just love about God, and just how most people, I find, in real estate, it wasn't like we didn't grow up being little girls like, I'm going to be a real estate agent. And that looks different now, right? I think you probably have a lot of younger people who are aspiring, but for most people that I know, this is like a second career, or it wasn't our very first choice. But I'm like you all, I am so grateful that I was chosen to do it. And it's just been such a blessing. So y'all are in the Baton Rouge market, and you have this amazing podcast, but you are not in the same brokerage. So like, let's talk about how you all came to know each other and then came up with Hustle Humbly.
Okay. Alissa will not say it, but she was a superstar from very early on in our market. So even though I've had my license longer than her, I knew who she was. I knew she was high producing. She was rookie of the year. She had just a lot of information to share. And I caught her on a webinar. I am a CRS designation. So I caught her on a webinar where she was talking about working with her database, and it came up how she liked to go to coffee with local agents who wanted to, just kind of get her ideas and talk to her about her business. And I thought, well, I want to do that. So I reached out to her. We went to lunch. We ended up doing a transaction together, coincidentally, and we just got to know each other, and that we worked very similarly. So that is really how it all started.
Yeah. And then at around that same time, I got pregnant with my daughter, who is now 7.
Okay.
And before her, I had all the time in the world. I didn't have to pick up anyone from daycare or carpool by a certain time. And so I had all the time in the world for coffee dates and whatever I wanted to do. After she was born, I really put a hold on all the extra things. Like I had to stop saying yes, even though I love to say yes. But I was just kind of burning myself out. And it was the first time in my life in 2017 that I had to have like real boundaries professionally. And so I did notice that I was missing that part of me that gave back to the industry, even though I knew that wasn't one person at a time. An hour with coffee was not the most efficient way to help. I knew I couldn't go back to that and sustain. So I was just sort of in a place of limbo of like, I feel like I'm missing something and I'm just not sure what that is. And then Katie and I had started like sharing podcasts, just via text and listening. And one day there was a podcast that was like, should you start a podcast, or how to do a podcast? And I remember I messaged her at like 6:30 in the morning, and I just said, hey, I'm texting you right now while I'm excited, because if I don't, I won't later.
Yeah.
But I really think that you and I could do a podcast together. And it was like our lives changed in that moment.
And this week is our 5-year birthday.
This week we turned 5 years old. We've never missed a Monday in 5 years.
Well, congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy 5th birthday.
Thank you.
And I know firsthand how hard that is, how much it is just to be committed to showing up socially, showing up on a podcast. In addition to, you are still full-time producing real estate agents, correct?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So in addition to that, but I love so much of your story. I love, Katy, how even though you were a little bit more seasoned in time, that you still were like, you know what, if she is saying that I love to go to coffee, I love to connect with other agents, I'm going to actually reach out. And I think that is so commendable, because there are so often, I can even think of times of myself where I may have had the opportunity, but I talk myself out of it, or I let imposter syndrome get in the way, or I'm just going to call it out, maybe a little bit of jealousy or just other things that we wouldn't want to admit. What was your mindset around that, in terms of being collaborative in that moment, instead of just kind of being like, she's just been in the business a year?
Right. So it's a really good question, because I think probably why she got so many coffee dates, and part of what drew me to her is like, she's such an open book, but also I'm like, what's the secret? Or how is she doing it more efficiently? Or what is she doing that's making her so successful? Because I'm always looking to improve, right? So I'm like, there must be a way. And then I get there, we have our lunch, we discover we're very similar in the way that we work. And then I just realized she's just a really freaking hard worker. And I'm like, I'm already that. So there was no secret there. There was no honey hole of leads. Her office wasn't funneling her a bunch of business. She just was good with people, liked people, had a nice sphere, and actually reached out to them and did the work. And it was just sort of this really affirming moment where I was like, oh, so I'm hardworking. As long as I keep hardworking, you will continue to be successful. There's no super secret here. I mean, it's also a bit of a letdown because I'm like, oh shoot, there was no honey hole. Where are the leads? Where are they hiding? But it was just really nice. And it was good for me because then that's how our relationship grew, because we were so similar in how we worked.
And I think that another reason I was ending the coffee dates is because I was pouring more into people and thinking I was helping, and then they would never take advice, or they would want to meet for coffee again in 2 months. And I'm like, well, how did implementing those other things? Oh, well, I never actually did anything. And I'm like, so you just want to suck me dry, and then I have nothing left to give. So sometimes I felt like my coffee dates were better for me than they were for others, because I was being fed by, helping, but I didn't know after the coffee date ended that they were like disappointed in my advice, which was stay consistent, don't give up, love your people, do a good job at your job, and you get referrals. Like, it's almost like I could see people's faces being disappointed.
Right. Like, this is too boring.
Yeah. Like, what? I thought you were going to tell me your secret website, or something. And I do feel like when I had lunch with Katie, first, we spent like not an extreme amount of time talking about the actual business side of it. And then when we did get on that subject, we were the same. There wasn't, I didn't sense like disappointment or anything like that. And so it was just sort of a breath of fresh air for me. Like, I felt like I was having lunch with a peer, not someone that I was having to like reach down and pull out. Like, she was already on my level. So like with the mindset of how the business should be. And so that was just really refreshing.
I love that. I love what you said. I mean, both of you all, what you exemplify is really what like being real life real estate besties is, right? Is that even if our production level looks different, and I just want to say that like there have been certain times in my career where like I aimed for a certain level of production, and then there's been certain times where I'm like, not so much, right? And I think sometimes in our industry, production can be such a, this is the marker of success. And honestly, no, I can see value in you if we are similarly aligned. And I love how both of you reached and were open to each other, even though if we look at the facade, right, we may have missed out on not only would you all have missed out on a beautiful friendship, but all of us who tune into Hustle Humbly are inspired and learn so much from you, we all would have missed out too. So I just appreciate your openness to just first embrace each other and now embrace this community that you've built.
Thank you. That's really nice.
That is really nice.
Yeah. No, it's sweet. Okay, so let's talk about it though, because I'm with you where it's so easy to build a great business that it's hard. And I know you all know what I mean, because I'm like you, like a lot of times I'm having conversations with people, and I have even found myself at different seasons thinking to myself like, okay, what will she be doing? And it's like, oh, she's doing what I'm doing. She's just doing a little bit more consistently, right? Or when I was doing this more consistently, I was getting the result. So where do you see agents get tripped up as they are building?
Oh, there's a few very common places. And even on our podcast, we have people say, when are y'all going to run out of stuff to talk about? But we get emails, so many emails and DMs, of people looking for advice, looking for encouragement. And there's definitely like a repeating theme of areas that agents struggle. We always say on Hustle Humbly, a lot of times it's their mindset. The issue that they think is the issue is not the issue. It's how they're thinking about it, such as, well, nobody's going to use me as an agent because everybody knows an agent already. Like, well, that's not true. If you do a good job, you could win the business, maybe not now, but even in 3 years when they go to sell that house they bought without you, they may call you. So just sort of a lot of mindset struggles and a lot of putting pressure on themselves about feeling like they should be doing all these fancy things. They should be doing all this marketing. And
yeah, we talk a lot about industry noise. There's no limit. There's a limitless supply of information, of training, of courses, of classes, of, designations. Then there's all the gurus and the coaches and everyone who's going to tell you, well, you should do this and then you should do that. And well, no, maybe you need to do this. I have a sign in my office that simply says simplicity equals consistency. So if we're going to take this all the way back to consistency, if you keep trying every new thing, every shiny object, diverts your attention, you never keep it simple long enough to implement consistently, then you'll never get the results. So it really just boiling it back down to what is the basis of working with a buyer and a seller. We don't have to know every way to use freaking AI to do. I don't even know what we're doing with AI anymore, but it's just like there's always
or what it's doing with us.
yeah,
right, yeah, right. There's always a new thing, and I like AI. That's fine, but I guess the problem is that every coach, every person has an opinion on how every realtor should operate, and our message from the very beginning has been, do it how you want to do it. Like, what is working for you? Maybe you like to door knock or cold call, or maybe you like to do open houses, but the next person doesn't. We can't all do it exactly the same and be successful.
And when you're forcing yourself to do things because you feel like you should be, not only will you feel icky or uncomfortable in a bad way, but the people that you're practicing
that you're serving,
they will feel that too.
Yeah.
They will feel that your heart is just not in what you're doing because you're not doing it in a way that is true to who you are as an agent.
No, I completely agree. And this year on my vision board, I put the quote, embrace boring. Because when I really thought about it, right, as you at the beginning of the year, and I know from the podcast, Katy, you're a goal setter. I know, Alissa, you're like, vibes. You're getting better. I love that about you. I love the dynamic. But as I was thinking this year about just what I wanted to accomplish in 2024, I was like, you know what, from whether it be health goals to real estate business to things that we want to grow on our podcast to just even relationships, it's that boring repetition that really makes the difference in any area. So but we live in this fast-paced society where our attention spans are 3 to 5 seconds, and then we're on to the next thing, or we're influenced by the next thing. But when we embrace the boring, guess what? Life gets pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. When did you start your podcast?
We actually will have our second birthday. I use the term birthday too, on September 1st.
I asked too, because, going on year 5, everybody wants to be host of a podcast that's been in production 5 years, but nobody wants to do it like the first 4 years.
Nope.
And I think the same is for real estate as well. They see big numbers, big achievements, but they don't really want to, they just want to be there, but they don't want to do all that stuff that gets you there.
Yep.
And they get bored doing the same things over and over and over again. And you're so right but that's the stuff that works. And James Clear, did you see his quote this week?
No, not yet.
So Katy and I are big Atomic Habit
Same.
fans. And he shared a quote this week that was so good. Let me see if I can find, I'll look for it.
Okay.
But it has to do with not giving up on the boring, mundane. It's like the second something loses its excitement, people want to jump ship.
Yep.
If we did that, this podcast would have ended a long time ago.
Yep. Right?
Yep.
A long time ago.
Because it takes consistency.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes consistency and just over and over. So while you're looking for the quote, here's a question that I have, because I also think that mindset is huge. What do you all do for your mindset? Like, what does it look like to grow yourself and to make sure that you are not getting stuck and in a rut, because I think that there are cycles in our business and we all go in and out of them. So what are some of your rituals that you
I'm
do?
so glad that you asked this. In our third episode, because this was what we wanted to talk about from the jump. We did 3 episodes. The first 3 we recorded all together. And in the third episode, it's called Mindset Meltdown. Okay. And we go into the things we do to like right our mindset when we go off the path. And it's pretty simple. Like Alissa would get into her car and just start driving, windows down. She would drive maybe for 15 minutes, maybe for 45, wherever she ended up. Once she felt like she had righted the ship, she would turn around and come back home. I like to take a nap. If it's gotten really bad, and quite honestly, in the past 5 years, the podcast has become so much of therapy for us that I don't have the mindset meltdowns like I used to. But if I ever got there, I would just take a nap. A nap fixes almost anything, just like take a break. Like you don't have to be in this moment right now. You don't have to let the overwhelm keep building, but talking to someone now, we don't need all that. I feel like, because we're just talking every week. We're talking and talking and talking about real estate.
So much talking.
Yeah, but you know what? This is a good point, because I do think that there is something so. A lot of times we try to hold it all in and do it all and work on these things all on ourselves, or all on our own. And there is so much value in, first of all, you all haven't been friends for 45 years, right? Some people think that I can't create a new friendship or create a friendship with someone who should be my competitor or anything like that. But really having and creating a space where you are the safe spot for someone to land, and they too are your safe spot to land, it does wonders for our mental health. And I'm with you. Like my ritual when my mind is just feeling cloudy is going for a walk, like an outdoor walk, like just breathing deeply, going for an outdoor walk. And if I can get in a walk and a nap, baby.
That's solid.
Yeah, I'm good though. I can literally close my eyes. One of my mentors once told me about, like, just close your eyes for 15 minutes. So even if I don't go to sleep, it's something about like shutting my eyes and almost like powering down your cell phone. Then when I boot back up, I have a renewed strength and a renewed energy. And we are in a service-based business. So if we're not doing something to pour into ourselves, but we're looking to pour into all of these clients, like you think you want to close 100 deals a year, but those are 100 scenarios, those are 100 situations, those are, 100 different personalities, and it can weigh so heavily on you and your mental health. We have to have ways to just offset that.
Absolutely. We actually just did an interview, and I don't think it has aired yet as of when this interview will air, but it was with Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith.
Yep.
Yeah. And she's talking about the 7 types of tired. And when you were just saying all of that, it reminded me like sometimes you're sensory tired. Like you've just been overwhelmed with like maybe you've been on Zoom calls all day, or you've been like meeting clients in person. Maybe you've been hauling staging stuff up and down the stairs. She said, well, then you're physically tired, but maybe you didn't sleep well. That's, a physically tired, but not every tired is you need to go to sleep. Like maybe you've just been working on content day in and day out for 3 days straight and you are creatively tired. So it was just fascinating. Like in order to fix your mindset or to like fix being overwhelmed or being tired, you have to know like what did you do too much of? Like what got you there? Like, is it one particular client that is really weighing you down and bringing down your mindset? Well, then maybe it's time to fire them or get someone to help you with your showings. You have to kind of find the root, because you can't just take a nap and fix everything. Although I think sometimes you can, but like you're going to have to figure out what is actually causing my mindset to be in this place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. And speaking of mindset, I have to ask you all this question, because, as we're recording this podcast, we are post August 17th. And I didn't die. Did y'all die? We didn't die, right? But there is still a lot of anxiety, and for a lot of agents, a lot of anxiety, unknowns, defensiveness. What advice or words of encouragement would you say to the agents that are really still processing what a new normal may look like?
I've told Katie that when this all came to fruition in the fall, and I thought that'll never make it because that doesn't make any sense. And then here we are. I went through the like different phases of grief, but like over and over again. Like I was really mad and then I was upset and then I was like, this isn't going to happen, total denial. And then I accepted it and then I got mad again. And like, I just went through this over and over. And I was almost like, I just wish it was here, because I think the reason I couldn't stay in acceptance is because it wasn't here yet.
Yep.
I was just like being trained. And so the few weeks leading up to it actually being here, when the board finally released forms that we can actually use, and I was starting to just like, I was trying to also look at it as like, this is just my business. Like, this is a new business form that is required by law. And no amount of being mad about it is going to change it. And then the more that I started going through the forms, and then of course at Hustle Humbly, we were working on some resources to help our listeners as well. And by helping them, it helped me. And I was like trying to write these forms into simple terms. And by the end of it, I'm like, I mean, it kind of makes sense though. Like I got to a point where I was accepting it, not simply because I had to, but because through the training and the education and being open-minded and doing research on the proper side of it and unfollowing the ones that were making me mad about it and getting me all ruffled up for no reason when it wasn't even always accurate. So once I just decided to handle it in a professional way, I let myself have my pity party. And then it was like, this makes sense. And I know we're only like a few days, a week in our market.
Yeah.
But it's gone very well.
Yep.
And if you would have told me how well it was going to go before, I would have never believed it. But I can't tell you, like, I even feel sort of like a sense of relief in my business in regards to the buyer side of things. Like all of a sudden, I'm just more protected. I know who's really serious and who's ready to buy. I know who's ready to sit down and have those consultations and who's not. I know who's worth getting a sitter to keep my kids for while I go show you houses on Saturday, and who's not ready for me to do that. It's almost like my clients went from quantity to very high quality. And I am being more productive than I was before because I have this new tool of gauging who's actually ready now. And the delivery has gone well too. I think so many agents, listen, we've heard it, you know, their delivery on why this must be signed is not good. And if you have not moved into acceptance yet and you're trying to deliver this message to a client, it is not going to go well. One of my friends texted me this week and was like, have you had anybody like do this yet? Because I'm about to go meet with my first buyer and I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I was like, oh my gosh, calm down. But I can remember like before I was trained feeling that way, but I wanted to be like, come on, like this is fine, you know? And so I was even telling Katie to see in myself the huge shift in perspective with how I feel about it happened so quickly within, you know, a few weeks that I even told her today, I said, I almost just want to hop into our Hustle Humbly community or something and just like provide some encouragement around this topic because I'm feeling better. But when I was in the depths of despair, nobody else was really like telling me, you know, how helpful it was actually going to be from a business standpoint.
No, absolutely. I love like just really, first of all, I appreciate your transparency because you've been in the business since 2011 and to go through all of those different emotions, right? You have some people thinking, well, I'm new. And so that's why I'm having freaking out. But anytime we're trying something different, I think that we have to first give ourselves just that grieving period of grieving the way our expectations of the way things were. But you said something so important. You said once you made the decision, right, that it was going to be okay, it's been okay. And a lot of times I remember I have a really good friend, Tiffany, when we first started with her new bill process, she was like, I'm going to be a mess. And I was like, well, if you say it's going to be a mess and you're going to be a mess, it's going to be a mess. But if you decide that we're going to have a great experience, we're going to have a great experience. And guess what? It was a mess. So a lot of times the energy and the expectation that we bring, it's going to heavily influence how we experience, right? Two people can have the same exact experiences, but the expectations that we bring to it will completely change it. So I think you provided hope for somebody to say, you know what, you can change your mind and embrace, because it's not going anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. This is it's made my listing conversations a lot easier. And I'm not throwing the buyer's agent under the bus at all, right? But it's just made the conversations a lot easier. And in Texas, we're a little bit different. I've always operated with a buyer agency agreement, but definitely didn't have to go into it in depth as much, right? About the possibility of what compensating us would look like, because it was like, oh, well, that's never really happened. This is what we signed. But it's, to your point, it's cutting out a lot of the fat meat that, you know what, I don't want I like greasy bacon, but
me too. Yeah.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like we're getting the good bacon, not the poor bacon.
Right.
Yeah. We're getting the good stuff. Well, I would love for you to just share with the besties. This has been great. I'm so just excited. I'm so grateful that you all took the time out of your day, but you have different ways that our real estate besties can engage and get to know more about the Hustle Humbly community. So please, please, please let them know how they can connect with you beyond this podcast.
I mean, they can find literally anything, the podcast episodes, any resource, a freebie, a course, like whatever they need is at the website, hustlehumblypodcast.com. If you want to engage with us on social media, we're on all of them, and they're all at Hustle Humbly Podcast.
Pretty easy to find.
Very easy to find.
I love it. And then side note, how did you come up with the name Hustle Humbly? Where did that come from?
We're lovers of alliteration. Alissa had a list of names. We kind of worked together on a list of names, and we were just a hot second from being casually professional, which I still like, but is not nearly the same.
Our podcast was almost called Casually Professional, because we felt like we are professional, but like we're casual,
right? Like we're more
relatable. We are real people. We're not going to pull up in our Lamborghini and like, do
it wasn't just like it came down. I was like, oh, Hustle Humbly. It's obviously the answer. There was a list. And even right before, we're like, are we sure? Are we sure? Like, is this actually the name? Maybe we knew we'd have to say it for 5 years over and over and over and over again. But I'm glad that we picked it, because we were just talking about this. I think that it actually gets us the exact right audience. So the people who listen are not afraid of the work, because the hustle doesn't scare them off. But they're also not your typical real estate flashy, they're okay with the humility part of it. Like we're in this to serve. It's not about us. So I think it's brought us exactly the right audience, I would say.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, ladies, I am a huge fan, a huge listener, and so happy to welcome you all to the real estate bestie community. You are our real life real estate besties now, and I'm just so grateful that you're on the podcast and can't wait to just continue to watch you soar, and best of luck with everything that y'all do.
You as well.
Yeah,
thank
2
you
years
so much.
is no joke.
I know.
mean, I feel like when people start podcasts, they make it like 2 or 3 episodes.
Right. Maybe 2 months at best.
Maybe 2 months. And then they're
are
like,
great.
man, this is hard. Oh, I found my quote.
Oh, please. Let's
yes, tell us the quote. Tell us the quote.
Yeah,
Tell
we'll
us the
leave
quote.
you with the quote, okay? Mastery requires a lot of practice, but the more you practice something, the more boring and routine it becomes. Thus, an essential component of mastery is the ability to maintain your enthusiasm. The master continues to find the fundamentals interesting.
I love it. I love
Why we're
it.
here, because we're not afraid. Like, yeah, the fun side of the podcast and real estate is fun, the stuff you get to post about. But people don't see us going through the Hustle Humbly inbox or taking the trash out to the street because your seller forgot. And, like, it's just what we do, and we don't mind it.
No.
I love it. I love it. It comes from a place, what I hear you saying is that it comes from truly having a heart of service. And when you show up to serve, then, it's biblical. We reap what we reap what we sow. And I'm just so excited to see what you all will continue to reap.
Thanks, friend.
Back at you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with,
Y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.